Hello everybody, this is Robin Dudley House, the Artsy Bohemian, coming to you from my studio in Los Angeles, California. It's very late and I've been working for days on this journal. So last Tuesday I showed you how to take an old book that's falling apart and fixing it up so that it can be used. And that's what I showed you last Tuesday, and I told you I was going to be making a journal with the cover, and so this is what it is, the front and the back. I am a design team member for the Graphics Fairy, so a lot of the images that are in the journal are from the Graphics Fairy premium membership site, and I've also used a lot of tossed off things, I guess you could say junk. To me they're not junk, but you know, ephemera that I have from magazines or just things that I've saved. So I'm going to show you every page in the journal. It might take a little time, so you might want to grab a beverage and just craft along while I show you this. So the front is this image, which I'm not sure if it's a mermaid, but I just love it. I think it's beautiful. And I don't know if you can see, but I did put quite a bit of glitter on there. I love glitter. And I put cheesecloth, things to make it look kind of flowy and like waves and seaweed and netting, you know, nets, fish nets, things like that. I also put some very old iridescent shells on here, kind of put them in different areas with some rhinestones. And also up here. Very, very pretty, real sparkly. And the flap opens just like what I do when I make my altered file folders. And inside I have a cute little mini journal that I saw Jeanette from A Trace of Sparkle make. It was so cute, and she's so talented and so sweet. And I thought, oh, I'm going to make one of those. Of course mine doesn't look like hers, but I'll put a link down below so you can check out her YouTube channel. And I also love Lori Girl on the Ridge, which I've mentioned before in other videos. I just love her style, and so, you know, we get inspired by other people here on YouTube, and it's a sweet, wonderful community. So this is a little tiny notebook made out of 2 envelopes. And if you want me to do a tutorial, I can, but like I said, she has a tutorial on her site. Oh gosh, I can't remember, Jeanette, from A Trace of Sparkle. So you can check that out. But basically it's 2 envelopes that are glued together. You can kind of see, I kind of covered it up, so it's not real easy. I used really vintage old envelopes. This is from 1949. And I just did a collage on here. I rubber stamped onto some vintage paper from an old book, and I just did lots of layering on here. And then it opens up, and these are some of the images from the Graphics Fairy that I made into tags. And if you remember, I was talking about how I didn't like how blue it was, so what I did was I distressed it with some brown ink and some an ink called Bottle Green, and I like the way that it came out. And so there's some tags. There's that little pocket there, and there's a pocket here because of the envelope. You can kind of see where the envelope is. I added some tape, rubber stamped a mermaid on here. She'll be throughout the whole journal. I stamped her quite a bit. So these are just made into tags, and I did some stickers on here, tatting, vintage tatting, and I just did a little bit of a collage on the back. And that fits into the top here with this flap. Old doilies, I made a tassel out of different types of laces. And in the back, I did a little bit more with the tape, the masking tape. This is, I made a nameplate with my name on it from an old binding from an old book. I love those old bindings. I keep them So they're so easy to tear, so I just tore it, sewed around it, wrote my name, and then glued it down. And then I hand stamped this handmade because you're worth it. More cheesecloth and laces. So now we're going to open it up. And this is the loaded envelope I showed you probably 2 weeks ago. And I added more to it. So if you want to see how I made this, it's an actual, it's an envelope that I glued to the back of some cardstock. And I'll take these out so you can see what I did. So I added more. When I did the tutorial, I was had stopped at a certain point, and then, you know, it always looks better when it's like packed with stuff, right? So you can kind of see what I did here. I did a zigzag kind of, and just added these pockets individually. So there's a tag. These are super cute. These are from the Graphics Fairy premium membership site. And I will put the links down below for the Graphics Fairy. The person that's buying this is going to be getting all these little goodies. There's going to be some extra pieces of doily and some extra doilies that kind of go with the theme. I made this little popsicle stick embellishment that goes in there, and all of these little goodies here. And then on this side I made a pocket. I was trying to emulate, you know, the old suitcases where they had the fabric that had like elastic in it on the top of the suitcase. This is just kind of my version of that. Didn't come out that great. I mean, I should have put elastic on it, but I didn't want to. That's just a little bit much. So this is vintage organza that I just gathered and just sewed on either side. And then I glued it down and I made a pocket. And this is from the Graphics Fairy, this pretty font here. And then I just did the same thing. I distressed it with some brown ink and the bottle green ink as well, ink pad, with some cheesecloth behind it. Also, Graphics Fairy. I love these images of the old paintings. This is of the ocean. And then this really cool paper looks like chipped paint. Just a tip-in. I did some rubber stamping on here. And all the pages are pretty much copy dyed. Rubber stamping. This is a flip with a tea-dyed bag. And a journaling piece of paper called the Mermaid Song. Again, there she is. I should name her. I think I'll call her Red. Just because I think I imagine her as having red hair. More of the Graphics Fairy rubber stamping on here. And any of the tears on here I kept because that's what happened when they were dyed. So I kind of like that look. More rubber stamping. This is a very old envelope that it's really, really thin. It's from 1943. I love all the stamping on it, and it apparently was examined by somebody. Must have been during the war. Made a faux postage stamp there, and then some cheesecloth and some glitter. And so that tips out like that. And more rubber stamping, some lace here. Maybe I'll just bring these out a little bit. So I used to rubber stamp quite a bit. I had a rubber stamp club. I probably have about 2,000 rubber stamps, so I love using them still. And I didn't have a large collection of ocean themed ones, but I did have this fish and that mermaid and I think a couple of other things. So you'll see the same bottle green in the rubber stamping here. Kind of keep with the theme of the colors. Flips out. And there she is again. Very old ledger paper. This is also a pocket that I did a tutorial on. on one of my Tuesday tutorials, and I added it to here. And then the person buying this journal will also get this cute little medallion that's been hand crocheted. I think it's crocheted anyway. You can take it off and use it for whatever. And then I just added some cute little pieces of ephemera here and a vintage glassine bag that has a really pretty piece of fabric in it that has gold thread. So that all goes in here. More lace. And then I made a pocket. This was kind of this was a 12 by 12 sheet of cardstock that I had coffee dyed. And it's one of those kinds of pieces of cardstock that you have to color in order to reveal the embossing underneath. So once I coffee dyed it, I could see what was embossed on here. So I made pockets here with some lace. I did some napkins collage here. This is a really new old stock. I believe this was used for cigar boxes. This is from the Graphics Fairy. Really cute. I made a little tag out of that. And then this is some real ephemera. Very old. This is from Colorado. It looks like somebody's house or property was flooded from 1935. So that's a real thing. And then an old envelope from Manikani Island, Jiwan, Samar. I've never even heard of that. This is from 1946. So this is a cool envelope, and there's even a letter in there. So that comes with it. The types of ephemera I would pick, I used because I liked the way it meshed with the colors that I was using. So that was a big decision on how I chose some of the ephemera, along with the sea and mermaid theme. More vintage envelopes with letters. This one has a letter from 1940. Cool letter here. Also this. All of these are all vintage. This is just a little collage I did with some images from the Graphics Fairy as well. Just did a little collage down here, and this opens up. All coffee dyed. Grungy looking. Bohemian. More lace. Got a little pocket here with some, sometimes these things get glued down. Whoopsie. I used some vintage wallpaper here. This is real. I think this is from this huge wallpaper sample book that I have from the 30s, and from the way it feels, I think it was actually painted, hand painted. And then inside of that is tucked another little envelope that you can add things to. Everything's coffee dyed. Graphics Fairy, old ledger paper, 1884. Old glassine bag, a rubber stamped image that I did. This is an actual rubber stamp. It's very, very detailed, that I did on glossy cardstock. And some more journaling cards. A little tuck spot there. An old popcorn bag. I love turquoise and red together. That's kind of why I did that. And this is a coffee dyed envelope with the rubber stamped IOU image. Did a lot of sewing on here. I like doing the sewing. I paint sometimes, and I take my paintbrush and I'll clean it off on things, and this is a tea bag, an old tea bag that I did that on. This is, for some reason, I don't know if you guys do this, but this was an old ledger page. It was real delicate and and brittle, and I glued it to some cardstock. I loved it because of this tape right here. It's kind of this aqua color. It has the number 54. I love those numbers from the ledger papers. Very cool. And this is also from the Graphics Fairy, so it's a nice piece of paper to jot down notes on. More old paper. Another spot, tuck spot here. And I just sewed around this image here. And the other part of the bag with some journaling, a journaling card. This is part of an envelope that I just collaged and put some laces on. These are super cool. These are from the Graphics Fairy. You can, if you have double-sided on your printer, you can do double-sided and make these really pretty journal pages. So I just did a flip on here, a little flip with a vintage glassine bag. I made this medallion. Tim Holtz has these really cool die cuts that you can emboss, and they look like old Dresden pieces. This is some of the masking tape that I made to look old, and another printed graphic from the Graphics Fairy. Just rubber stamped that girl on here, red on here. Red the mermaid. Old, very, very old. I think it's some kind of Asian trim that I added. And then this, I kind of like the way this looked. I have had these die cuts for a long time. I think they're from Bo Bunny. I was hoarding them, but I'm telling you, I'm just giving it out there. It's putting it out there now. It was this long, but my page is only this long. So I decided to make a pocket and extend it out to this area. This is something you can do if you have something that you don't want to cut. And so what I did was I glued it on the edges here, and then just glued it down here. So this is a tuck spot too. And then I glued a button down here. I thought it looked kind of cool. So this is a nice card to journal on. You can journal here, and this is a cute little file folder. There's that cute fishy. Some of my collage, an old time card. Well, it's not old. I made it look old. That you can make a little journal out of, or the person buying this can make a journal out of. It has been asked for, called for already. And this is from an image from an old postcard that I shrunk down. So I just did a little collage in here and made a pocket. I took some just cheapy dollar store lined paper and I tea-dyed it, and I like the way it's all wrinkled and it looks old. You can do the same thing. This is one of those pretty images from the Graphics Fairy. I made a pocket and it added just a little, you know how we always have scraps of paper? You can just watch TV and make little notebooks, little shabby looking notebooks. Here's one of those cute tags that I made from the Graphics Fairy as well. Add some more lace. Graphics Fairy. This is the other page side from the Graphics Fairy printables bundle. Then I took an envelope, an envelope from junk mail, and made it into, there's a couple of pockets here. I show how to do this type of technique in my French Bohemian Traveler's Junk Journal class. So if you want to learn how to do that, I show how to do, this is a simpler version. The one I show in the online class is a little more complicated. And there's that. And then I have another goodie bag that I am going to be adding to this. So I went to the flea market this past Sunday. It's the fourth Sunday of every month where I live, and I'm always on the lookout for doilies, and especially now more doilies because I sold so many with the bundles that I did last time. And I found this amazing color. And so I'm adding this to the journal. I think it's beautiful. I've never seen a doily this color. Or maybe I just don't look because I'm always looking for off-white ones. But I just thought it's so pretty to add to this journal. And so I'm adding a couple of other pieces that are really pretty to the journal. And it's going to go on this little bag, kind of like a loaded brown bag. And so all of these come out. Ooh, I like the way that looks, just like that. So I just took a bag. This is nothing new. You can find these. Lots of people do tutorials. This is a very simple version, actually. It's just a bag. So if you have a pretty decorative bag, or even if you have a brown paper bag, it's the same thing. So it's folded here, you know, the flap that folds. And then I sewed it on the edges, and then I just did a little collage here. And then that flap there makes a nice pocket. But I'm kind of liking it without putting all this stuff in here, but I'm just going to add all this. This is just some die cuts that I had. Nothing too special. I think they're from Bo Bunny. Wait, there's a little journal pocket there, booklet. And then this is going to go inside, and this comes with the journal. So it's probably going to be a while before I make another junk journal. They take forever to make, especially when you're adding all this stuff. I just can't stop. I feel like I'm obligated to add and add and add and add and add, and then literally I can't. It won't even close. It's like this. So I hope you enjoyed that. I will be loading more content next Tuesday. I have some fun things from My Porch Prints, which contacted me to show some of their adorable, beautiful digitals next Tuesday. But it's always hard to sell the journals because you kind of get attached to them. But I have to know that when I'm making it, that if somebody wants to buy it, then that's how I kind of have to put my mind set to. So if you want to learn how to make bohemian style junk journals in the style that you see here on my YouTube channels, check out my online school. I have a very popular French Bohemian Traveler's Junk Journal course. It's over 20 hours of content, and I feel like my well is endless when it comes to ideas. So everything I show you, I give you lots of free content here on YouTube, which I love doing. But there's even more. I have more to give, and I have more in a condensed, focused journal class. And so you could make something similar to what I've just showed you here. It's not going to be exactly the same thing because I don't show how to make these particular things, but it's my style, and I kind of fly by the seat of my pants when I'm making journals. I don't really know how I'm going to put them together until I do it. By the way, I put this journal together with something called a case binding, which is something you'll see in most books. And it was very interesting for me. So it makes it so that you can open the book and the pages will stay open instead of like a pamphlet stitch. It's basically kind of the book binding that you would see in most books, so that you don't see any of the stitching on the outside binding. I'll leave a link for a person who I found on YouTube who does it. It's nothing like what I did here because I had to figure out how to do it for this style because it's pretty funky and it was very wrinkled and old. So I had to figure out another way to do the case binding. But I really like the technique. But of course I didn't do it nearly as perfect as this person does. She's an amazing bookbinder and bookmaker. So I hope you enjoyed that. I will see you in the next video. Please subscribe to my channel if you want to be notified every Tuesday when I load bohemian style, unconventional, junk journal techniques and paper crafting. Also, click the bell, the little bell icon, so that you'll be notified. Thanks for watching.